Welcome. My name is Siobhan Byrne-Larat, and I'm the owner of Adams and Butler. And you have Gio, who's with me here, and also Rachel and Rebecca, who's organised this event. And we're very lucky that not only do we have Marianne Gorman, who is the garden and also an architecture and historical expert as well, but we also have fantastic owners of gardens joining us. So we have the Countess of Rosse, from Birr Castle, we have Jackie Carroll from Ballintubbert, we have Catherine FitzGerald from Glin Castle, Fanula Ardee, Lady Ardee from Kilruddery, Kristin Jameson of the Jameson whiskey family from Tourin, and then James Fennell from Burtown House. So we're really, really lucky that we have all of these people joining us today. So Marianne, can we start with yourself, and you can tell us why people should come on a trip to Ireland to visit gardens?
Well, I think, I know that when you come on a garden tour to Ireland, you are completely going off the well-trodden tourist path, and you are going into really the history of Ireland, the hearts and minds of the Irish people and their dreams. And I think every garden has a secret. I was going to talk about secret gardens, but be they large public gardens or small private gardens, they all carry their secrets. And this is what you will learn when you come on a garden tour. It is so unique and so different and so kind of special to you that it is a privilege to be amongst these people. And also, you go to the important large estates. And I thought I would start off with Kilruddery. Kilruddery, which was a garden from the 16th century, begun and started off by a family who came here from Brabançon in Belgium, the Brabazon family. They took the name of where they came from. And they started developing this garden, Kilruddery, in the 16th century. And it's a garden of pleasure. Think of the pleasure dome. Well, you're really walking into pleasures when you go into Kilruddery. It's a garden laid out for you to sport yourself and enjoy. You start off and you walk into the angles, these angles formed by different varieties of hedging at an angle shape. And there you could possibly, which you hope you will have an amorous tryst in the angles. And then nearby, if the family are busy enjoying themselves at the bowling green, you will go with the love of your life into the wilderness, and you will walk through the wilderness, come upon marvelous statuary, and maybe end up enjoying a tragedy or a drama or a comedy in the lovely circular beach hedge theatre. And the marvelous thing is that you will end it all by having a fun-filled lunch with members of the family who carry with them the whole history of why these areas were planted, what they did as children under this particular planting, the ponds, the two twin canals that they have in front of the house, where the family would have gathered their fish when there was no refrigeration available, and they kept their fish in the ponds, and then they just hoisted them out of the pond to bring them to the luncheon table. And it is truly a visit of magic. From that garden, and this is all around the area of Dublin, because Kilruddery is in County Wicklow, so nearby to Dublin, just a hop from Dublin, you possibly will go, I think you should go into a garden which is particularly for the form of design that it was fashioned in, under the great influence of William Robinson, the great natural garden plantsman. You will go into Mount Usher. Mount Usher, which is an epitome of this Robinsonian type garden, where everything looks natural, despite the fact that the owners at one stage had to tweak the course of the river in order to make it even more natural. That doesn't, in fact, in any way take away from the incredible planting there. It's a totally organic garden. And the planting looks as if birds had just passed by and dropped the various plants from the sky in terms of their droppings into the garden, and had dropped little seedlings of these plants, which then grow naturally all the way along the river. You come into areas there of azaleas, they come into areas there of hoherias, eucrephias. It depends on the season, and the natural planting in the undergrowth is absolutely divine. After all that maybe over exuberance and your palate is sated, you could drop into the very nearby garden of the artist and botanist Patricia Butler. Patricia lives in the 18th century dower house of Rosanna, very close to Mount Usher, and has created, with her artist's eye and her horticultural eye, has created this exquisite garden, very much emphasizing walking through wildflower meadows and then ending up, hopefully, with a glass of chilled white wine in your hand and sitting down in the white garden, where the only change in color is of visiting butterflies. You have painted ladies coming in. You have also red admirals coming in that flash of color on the white planting of the garden. Beautiful, beautiful. Also, I meant to mention the myrtle trees abound as you're walking up towards the wildflower meadow. And you're kind of made feel soporific by the lovely drowsy drone of bumblebees as they come in and out of the flowers here in this garden. And then a short kind of move away from that, you have another garden which I absolutely adore. I remember the first time I visited it, I wrote a note to myself, just the words divine. And that is Dargle Hill Garden, the home of Manon and Bill Somerville. And it is very close to Powers Court. The words, I wrote divine, I wrote a gem, and various other words. It's an 1800s house, 1790, 1800s house, which was the home of the land agent for the Powers Court estate and the Wingfield family, and later used by the various clergy attached to the church for the Wingfield family. And then later on, much later on, the Somervilles bought it. The garden is a garden of delights. It's a garden of color combinations. It's a garden of textures where you can almost feel you can touch the plants and different textures will come through your fingers. It's a garden of woodlands, terraces, and exquisite flower borders. And overall, the dominating element here is the glorious sense that wafts through the air as you walk through the garden. And then you have the house peeping through the incredible foliage that sometimes allows it to peep through, which surrounds the entire house as you walk through here. I just really love that garden. Now, the next garden I wanted to talk about is going to Lambay Island. Lambay Island is in a way very, very private because you have to go there by boat. And I always feel like a child going in a boat, that I'm going off to another country when I get, even if the journey is 15, 20 minutes away from where I am, and I actually can see the island from where I'm standing, getting onto the boat. And this is the feeling you get when you go to Lambay Island. And you are, in fact, when you get there, really entering into another world, if not another country. Lambay Island is an island which was of huge strategic importance. They found 4th century BC axe heads in the area. So it was inhabited from the 4th century BC. The Vikings landed there in 795 before they took up their residence in Dublin near Christchurch Cathedral. And in 1904, a man called Cecil Baring, many of you will have known of the Barings Bank, same family. He was in New York working in the banking business and misappropriated, I think that's probably a word, the wife of his business partner and had to leave New York hurriedly. Her name was Maud, and she really was forever and ever to the end of her. Sadly, she died at a fairly young age, the love of his life. And they both saw, I think it was in something like the Field magazine, an ad for this island. And they decided impulsively to buy the entire island. That was in 1904. It was the time of the great architect, who is very much the architect of the British Raj, Edwin Lutyens. He was a man who designed a lot of buildings in New Delhi. And they got Edwin Lutyens to work on building them a home on this island. Now, Edwin Lutyens really respected antiquity. And there was a 15th century castle already on Lambay Island. And Lutyens literally seamlessly added to this building, so that it's almost impossible, unless you scrape back, to know where one ends and the other begins. And Lutyens' great garden partner was Gertrude Jekyll. And the combination in Lambay is amazing. Firstly, let me say that as you walk up from the boat, you pass these fishermen cottages just at the edge. And then you walk up to the castle, to the house, and you're walking through woodland, which is planted forever and ever. And you suddenly see these incredible exotic animals, including at least 60 wallabies. Now, one doesn't really expect to see wallabies kind of grazing grass in gardens around Ireland, but Cecil Baring had an obsession for exotic animals, and I think he persuaded the zoo to give him any of the leftover animals that they had, or if they had too many animals of one variety, to give them to him. And the wallabies have been there ever since, including some other exotic animals. And then you come to this great curtain wall, and then you come to the castle itself, and then you come through into the garden. Now, the detail of the idea of the garden is amazing, because the series of stone archways lead you into each of the rooms, which Gertrude Jekyll was very famous for, the rooms, garden rooms, which she has developed. And they almost reflect the inside of the castle, the floors of the castle, in the terms of the circular steps leading into the stone archways. And the circular steps are a form of welcome, leading you into the different garden rooms. And the planting there is unbelievable. Gertrude Jekyll didn't charge for her services, but she charged for the plants, because she was too elegant to charge for being a gardener. But she charged a heck of a lot for the plants to make up for the lack of charging for her services. And that is, to me, the most beautiful aspect of this garden. And beyond the woodlands, they are filled. Beyond the gardens, there are the woodlands, which are filled with drifts of flowers everywhere. And the magical thing is that the same family still live here. And you can have a lunch or a coffee with the same family. And it's just so special. And you're going into an era of Ireland that is almost forgotten about. A short drive from Dublin, then you've got County Kildare, very rich agricultural land where a lot of the stud farms are located. And I know you're going to visit with James this wonderful garden of Burtown House, which, again, I'm sorry, I'm overwhelming with my adoration of gardens, but I really love this garden. A garden, I think one of the elements which I feel is so important in gardens, and it's so important in the garden of James Fennell, is the artist's palette. You have that here. James Fennell's family, James and Joanna Fennell, have lived here for a very long time. Since the 18th century, the house has passed through the female line and eventually to the Fennells. They're related to the Shackletons. I think that's quite important to say. It's a very Quaker area around here. And Ernest Shackleton, famous explorer, is an ancestor of the family. And James's mother is Leslie Fennell, who recently, at least was interviewed by Robert O'Byrne about her work as an artist. She's doing a series of wall gardens. Andrea Jameson is also involved in this, which is going to be on exhibition with the Irish Georgian Society. And again, Leslie's mother, Wendy Walsh, was sadly are major, certainly major forever and ever, botanical artists. So you've got all of this reflected through these generations in the planting of the garden. And the magical thing in, James will talk to you about his garden, but there, you're surrounded by water on all sides. And I find that both soothing and gloriously magical quality. And they've got lovely, lovely, there's rock gardens, and they've got clematis and old roses, a huge variety of clematis and pergolas, etc. And an amazingly productive kitchen garden, which you can enjoy the delights of if you eat in the Green Barn in Burtown House, which I have certainly enjoyed the delights of many times over. And also every February, I think it is, James, there is a annual pilgrimage here to Burtown House to see the winter aconites and the snowdrops. And galanthus obsessive people come here in their scores just to enjoy and lust after these glorious snowdrops and winter aconites that they have in Burtown House. Then we go further southeast to Tourin. Tourin is perched on the edge of the almost mystical, I think totally mystical Blackwater. It's our equivalent of the Rhine in Ireland. It's a river which, because of its extent and its width, has been inhabited. Certainly the Normans came here under Adam de Hereford in the 12th century and built great castles on the edge of the river. And it is full of the most extraordinary gardens. I'm just picking out Tourin because it's a garden that I connect with very heavily, the home of Andrea and Kristin Jameson, and Kristin is going to bring us around a bit of the garden here. And it represents to me all these houses on the edge of the Blackwater, the development of the Romantic era and throwing off the shackles of the constrictions of the discipline of the Georgian era. And really the garden here very much reflects that feeling. I suppose the bonus is that when you go in and say, hello, Kristin, hello, Andrea, you get a glass of Jameson, very good Jameson, thrust into your hand. And the double bonus is when you have lunch here, that they produce a salmon, which has been just fished that morning from the River Blackwater and almost straight onto your plate, when it is done a little bit of cooking in the meantime. But you walk here, firstly, through the woodland of extraordinary trees planted here since the 1800s or the end of the 18th century, and underplanted with camellias and with azaleas and rhododendrons. And they have some champion trees here. This is a great vicious contest for who has the champion trees, and they are actually officially nominated as champion trees. I think Kristin told me a story of somebody else who felt their tree was more champion than the tree at Tourin, and they tried secretly to come in at night and cut down Tourin tree because so that they would win the competition. Anyway, they were forestalled and it didn't happen. But again, Andrea is both of the girls were trained as artists in Italy. And again, you have this running theme of the artist palette at play. And walking from the woodland, you come into this very, very large walled garden where you have lovely varieties of vegetables and fruit for the table, but also over 100 varieties of some very rare bearded irises. And to be honest, one is more beautiful than the other. It's like looking again at the actual palette of an artist when you look at those collection of bearded irises, and they're all up at the top of the walled garden. So I suppose the icing on the cake for me is that Kristin Jameson is a well-known trainer of Irish working red setters. And these are boundlessly energetic dogs that you will see all around the area, and glorious to end your walk through the garden with a visit of the Irish red setters. I'm just going to quickly mention, and then I let everybody else have their say, the great possibility as Siobhan was saying, of going up to the north of Ireland. It's only 2 hours away from here, but you are totally in another world in terms of gardens and gardening up there. By the way, before I go to that, maybe I'll just mention that beside Tourin, you've got Dromanna House, you've got Cappoquin House, you've got Lismore Castle with its very early 16th century walled garden, and now the property of the Duke of Devonshire through marriage with the Boyle family. And it's a whole score of areas. You just don't have to budge out of that whole area around Tourin to see a multitude of glorious gardens. Up to the north of Ireland, about 2 hours north from here. And here you will go down. There's so many gardens up there, but just let's choose one quick garden, which is going down by Strangford Lough and into the garden of Grey Abbey, the home of William and Daphne Montgomery. It gets its name from the nearby 12th century Cistercian monastery, which actually is the garden flows into the Cistercian monastery. And it's not a ruin, but remains of. Many of the Montgomerys are buried in the Cistercian monastery, and there is a plaque to Field Marshal Montgomery, an ancestor of the Montgomerys, the famous Field Marshal Montgomery, in the Cistercian monastery itself. The garden has this, because of Strangford Lough, it has these almost a microclimate where Daphne has grown plants that I know that the Botanic Gardens in Belfast can't grow, or even are certainly edgy about growing. And so they very often given to Daphne the possibility, the chore maybe, of growing these plants in the garden very, very successfully in Grey Abbey. And I feel that this is so special because anybody who's interested in rare plants, this is where you'll get them. There's also, for an added bonus again, a physic garden attached to the Cistercian monastery. You often get these physic gardens, but very few of them actually remain. This one is intact. And if any of you, from a sheer exhaustion, are feeling a little pallid or a little weak, you can just bite on one of the plants in the physic garden or chew on them, and you will find that they relieve all of your delicate moments. And the glorious thing is then to dine with Bill and Daphne in their amazing Strawberry Hill Gothic. Now, somebody described Strawberry Hill Gothic decoration as a stucco work, as kind of like the udders of cows hanging out of the ceiling. It's over the top stucco work or plaster work, but gloriously sumptuous. And you can dine with the owners here under this wonderful ceiling, and everything is so relaxed. That's the marvelous thing about gardening and going on garden visits in Ireland. Everything is so relaxed, so much fun, and such a passion. You enter into the passion of people who went on plant hunting expeditions, what they brought back, and their obsessions about the various plants that they saw when they were away, and how our climate lends itself to growing any type of plant from any country in the world so successfully here. Now, I'm handing over to much more interesting people, but thank you for listening to me.
Thanks a million, Marianne. So, Gio, did you have a map with the gardens marked? I know you usually do, and I don't know whether we forgot to do that this time.
Yes, I do.
Oh, brilliant.
I'm just going to share my screen. Where is it now?
And the wonderful thing as well is Marianne knows all these owners intimately. So when she goes to visit them, it's visiting friends. So your clients become, they discover new friends, both with Marianne and with the owners of the properties.
Here is a map. Let me just get this out of the way. So just some of the ones that, Dublin, Kilruddery, which we'll be hearing from in a minute. Land Bay, I couldn't put in the map because it's an island. So I believe it's probably this island here, just on the north, just from Malahide. You take the boat from there. We'll be hearing from Birr Castle, Burtown House, Tourin Castle, and then we'll also have Ballintubbert and Glin, which are the ones that are presenting today. And then in Northern Ireland, Grey Abbey is, didn't put it here, but it's about about here, right? Just south of Belfast on this little arm.
But in the itinerary that we'll be sending out, there'll be other gardens featured as well. So Gio, I think we're going to go straight over to Birr Castle, and we're going to meet Lady Rosse, the Countess of Rosse. So when our clients visit Birr Castle, they have the wonderful experience of not only going to the public gardens, but also to visit the private garden. And there they're hosted by Lady Rosse and the Earl of Rosse Brandon. So Lady Rosse, can you tell us about the history of the property? How are you?
I'm fine, and hello everybody. I really enjoyed that, what Marianne was talking about, and she's a great friend and she's a wonderful guide, and she knows the history of Birr as well as anybody. And we entertain people for lunch usually, because the garden's very large, and so you need to maybe come here before lunch for a little bit and then see the inside of the castle, and then in the afternoon around the garden as much as you can, the formal gardens, and depending on the time of year, the magnolias by the river. We have rivers, and 2 rivers, and a formal garden and a great telescope. So there's really a lot to see.
Well, I just showed the video quickly so people can have
sure.
a feel
You can see that
because it's beautiful.
That's us. My husband. My grandchildren. That's the Gothic room, and that's the 3rd Earl who built the telescope. There's the great telescope, which is a fascinating piece of early mid 19th century. That's Gothic. That's a spiral that we connected to. That's a radio telescope. Because of this, that's Mary Rosse's garden, one of the Countesses was elected in 1850. Charles Parsons invented the green curtain. There's close again. Ireland's first suspension bridge. And that gives you a bit of an idea of the size of the garden. I maybe shouldn't have been talking over the music. You probably couldn't hear. I was just muttering on. We collected a lot of the very rare plants ourselves. We went on expeditions to Pakistan. My husband worked in Iran many years ago, and we also have plants from Chile and the Southern Hemisphere. We try and push the boundaries with what we can grow. So from a plant point of view, we have some very interesting trees. We also have champion trees, so we can compete with Leslie and Andrea. And I also am an artist, and I've been painting gardens, as has Andrea Jameson and Leslie Fennell. And we look forward to the exhibition in Dublin, hopefully in September, of walled gardens in Ireland, which several of us have been painting. the gardens do have a website. You can look up burrcastle.com and see all the other pleasures that you can see at Birr. The formal gardens are particularly special, and autumn is a lovely time to visit because the autumn colours are really very lovely. And also in the spring, we have a wonderful collection of magnolias from all over the world. A lot of plants we have from China because my father-in-law visited China in the 1930s, and he got some of the first seeds from China of such plants as the metasequoia. We also, as you saw on the video, have a scientific heritage, and if you have time, you can also visit our science center where we have things displayed from the scientific members of the family. The Parsons family is the family name, and the castle goes back to 1620 when my husband's family first came here, and so we've been here. We've just celebrated our 400 years of being at Birr and enhancing the gardens and the castle.
Lady Rosse, you also have magnificent trees, don't you?
We do, and as I say, we have some champion trees here. Some especially large magnolias.
And the sequoias as well, isn't there?
And yes, we've just started to plant what we call the Giant's Grove. And the Giant's Grove also has a website. And we're planting a huge number, like several hundred of redwoods, both the coastal redwood and the sequoia, the other redwood. And this is a very exciting thing that we're doing. So in 1,000 years' time, there'll be a great forest here in Birr, because apparently now the redwoods are growing better in Ireland than they are in California. In California, with the drought, and they're not reproducing so well, and here they do. And so we've got a small area of small trees in a large area growing.
There's a question there. Do you have a cedar from Lebanon?
Yes, we do. We do. Absolutely. We've got a lovely, and from the Atlas Mountains as well. Yeah.
And the great thing about the visiting Birr Castle as well is there's something for everyone. So say if you have a couple visiting or two couples and one of them isn't interested in flowers or plants or trees, there's the giant telescope. There's amazing history because there's a long tradition of sciences and engineering in the family as well.
That's right. And you also saw a very quick clip of the interior of the castle, which we love to show people. Mm-hmm. And if people have particular interests, like in books or in silver, we can sort of get these treasures out of the drawers and out of the cupboards and make a little display for anybody who's interested. And we now have a lovely collection of botanical paintings as well, from Leslie and Leslie's mother from Burtown, Wendy Walsh, and so we have all sorts of things in the castle as well that you can see and enjoy.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Lady Rosse.
Thank you. Well, I hope you'll come and enjoy it. We look forward to having you all and giving you lunch.
Brilliant. And it's one of the things that clients love, because I always laugh because when we have clients staying in Ballyfin, Birr is only 45 minutes away. And, we plan a day trip to Birr and they always say, the most important thing on my trip is having dinner in Ballyfin. And then Ballyfin are ringing us and saying, where are the clients? We're saying they're still ensconced, having lunch in Birr Castle because people don't want to leave. There's so many stories, and there's a fantastic bust of Queen Victoria with the hair, with her real hair and everything. There's just so many things to see and do.
I know everybody, Glin the other way, they're always getting annoyed that we keep people too long, or the other way around sometimes as well.
So that's brilliant. Thank you very much. So we're going to leave Birr Castle and we're going now to Ballintubbert Gardens, and we have Jackie Carroll there.
Hi, I'm Jackie and this is Jennifer, our head gardener, and she'll be the person who's really telling you our secrets here. But it was fascinating listening to Marion and Lady Rosse. I think what it shows is the huge diversity of gardens in Ireland, because our garden is 14 acres. It's a beautiful arts and crafts laid garden, and we're about, I would say, maybe 40 minutes from Birr. We're about 15 minutes from Burtown, so we're right in the centre. Our garden is based around the main manor house here, which was a glebe, which is an old rectory belonging to the church that's at the end of the garden. And the garden has developed over the years with the different owners of the house. And I think for us that the history of the house is intertwined with the history of the garden and what people tried to do here. I think Gio has a small video that we made.
Yes, we'll start with that.
Welcome to Ballintubbert Gardens and House. I'm Jennifer, the head gardener, and I'm going to take you on a quick virtual tour of our amazing grounds. 14 acres of gardens and woodland surrounding a stunning Georgian house complete with its own glamping grounds. The house and grounds date back to the 1700s and have had many notable residents, including Cecil D. Lewis, poet laureate and father to Daniel D. Lewis, Sebastian Shaw, actor and playwright and the face beneath Darth Vader's mask, and the late great Sir John Hurt, who needs no introduction. Every resident has left a little piece of themselves behind, whether it's in the creation of a new garden, planting an orchard, or in the case of Sebastian Shaw, creating a herb garden in a loving attempt to cure his ailing wife. We have restored the Shaw garden, and we use the herbs and flowers from here in our herbal workshop and wellness event retreats. And so, with a firm grasp of our history, we look to the future and are in the process of becoming Ireland's first organically certified ornamental garden. It's a bit of a mouthful, I know, but an amazing feat when you consider how small our garden team is here. But listen, can you hear the bird song in the background? They, along with a host of frogs and hedgehogs, play a vital role in pest control. Few slugs, snails or aphids escape their sharp eyes or noses. So call in for a visit, explore our history and our future with us, and see how we garden organically, sustainably, and work towards a low-impact future.
Jennifer is just going to talk through the development of our garden and the principles behind our organic certification and how we garden in a holistic manner here.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. It's really quite simple. There's lots of vegetable gardens in Ireland which are organically certified. We are at the process of being the only ornamental one which will be organically certified. And the certification just gives us the guidelines to work towards. So we garden very holistically, which basically means we try and keep our inputs as low in the garden. So our hazel rods, when we coppice our hazel nuttery, we use the hazel rods for plant supports, we use them for chippings, we use them for mulch in the hedges. It's trying to think really simply. It's not trying to recreate the wheel. It's just working with the ecosystem that we have, the biodiversity that we have, and letting it work for us so we have the beautiful garden we have. So we have 14 acres, some of it very formal, some woodland, some lawns. We actually have, and Marianne was talking about it, an Edwin Lutyens inspired sunken garden. Haywood Gardens is just up the road from us, which was one of his designed gardens. And I think he designed 3 in Ireland, so one of them is up the road, about 10 minutes away. We have an inspired version of it, and with Gertrude Jekyll style planting around it, a sunken garden, fountain in the middle. Beautiful, stunning place in the summertime, just to sit, listen to the birds, smell the roses. It's absolutely divine. We have multiple garden rooms, the rose garden with over 300 different rose varieties in it, an orchard with some heritage style heritage variety of apples, where we make our own apple juice, which we use for our lunches and our events here. You can have our own organically certified apple juice. And we have a secret garden, but to find it, you're going to have to come and visit. Now I'll hand you back to Jackie.
Yeah. In terms of our garden, the types of experiences we offer to our guests are based on the history of the house. Sebastian Shaw created a beautiful herb garden here. So one of the experiences that people can have here is a herbal remedy workshop with a herbalist. We also offer foraging workshops where people are free to taste and then bring the food back and create a meal with what they've foraged within the garden, and no one is afraid because there's nothing been sprayed, there's nothing on anything, only maybe a little bit of lemon juice now and again. The house and the gardens are very welcoming and cozy, I think. We offer that kind of aspirational garden. Maybe I could do this in my own house if I tried really hard, but and I think what the current owners of Ballintubbert bring is a very an approach to well-being. We have yoga retreats here, and this is the place of the wells. In Irish history, this Ballintubbert means Ballintubbert, which is the place of the wells, and there were pilgrimages here in pagan times. We have a St. Bridget's well here as well. It was said to have healing powers for feet. Now, I haven't tried it. I don't think Jennifer has either, but it's a small, intimate garden, and it would really be, it shows what can be done in a small area. One of our smallest gardens is the Shackleton Garden, and that was actually commissioned by the actor Sir John Hurt. He lived in Ballintubbert for many number of years, and he commissioned the Shackleton Garden with Ernest Shackleton is from Athy, which is about 10 minutes away, and their secret garden is hidden behind. Well, you'll have to come and find it. Sorry.
Tell them where it is.
It's actually Jennifer's favorite spot in the garden too. So she doesn't like other people knowing about it. Anyway, that's
where I go to hide, so you can't find where I am.
But it's also it's also an amazing way to see the heartland of Ireland, the Midlands, because people don't know about the Midlands. They know about the Wild Atlantic Way. They know about the vibrant Dublin City, Cork, Galway. They know about, the west of Ireland, etc., the southwest. But they don't know about that and those amazing places in the Midlands. Yeah. And even I always say, when you drive from Dublin to Cork, just driving through Tipperary, when you drive through Kildare, Laois, that fantastic countryside you see, and it's really somewhere off the beaten track and you can really enjoy. So that's fantastic. Thank you very much, ladies.
You're more than welcome.
Thanks, Amonia. We're going to go over to Glin Castle now, which is on the other side of Ireland as such, on the Shannon Estuary there. So Catherine, it's over to you now. How are you? Good?
I am great. Hello, everybody. Thank you for those lovely presentations. I'm good.
So will you tell us a bit about your garden, because it is fantastic, and you are an active garden designer and specialist yourself.
Yes, I work as a landscape designer with my partner, Mark Lutchins, who's a great nephew of Lutchins that we've been hearing about at Lambay Island and inspiring some of Ballintubbert's wonderful gardens. And I work in the UK and in Ireland, and here at Glin is my sort of place to experiment with planting and again push the boundaries a bit, like Ali was saying at Birr, with what we can grow, because we do have a bit of that Gulf Stream effect, being we're half an hour from the sea. We're on the Shannon Estuary in the southwest, very much off the beaten track, right out on the wide estuary, and we don't have the cold winters of the colder winters of the Midlands, so we can grow a lot of things that you see in sort of Kerry gardens like Tourin and Rostowen and places like that. Yes, I've got some slides because I've been doing a lot of gardening this week and there are lots of wonderful magnolias coming out, cherries, and we have the camellias are still going and lots of bulbs, and I'd love to share those with you. Okay, so will I just
let me know when you want to go.
Well, this is just okay. Will I just talk over it and go down? Yeah. We'll speed through them, not to take too long. Just to give you an idea, it's the north face looks over the Shannon estuary, and then the garden side is the sheltered south facing garden where we can grow these interesting trees and shrubs and more protection from the west winds. We can go on. The garden has an interesting history. It was my great-grandmother, Lady Rachel Wyndham Quinn, came from Ardee, and her father was the 4th Earl of Dunraven. She brought a lot of the taller Chilean trees and shrubs. He was a great plantsman. He made 2 gardens, one at Derrynane and one at Garinish, the island garden off Sneem, not the other Garinish. And I can see the footprint of what they did here. She died quite young, so she wasn't here that long, but I know what she planted. And then these formal bones, the one we just were looking at before, if you go back one, were then my grandmother Veronica, who laid out the sundial and planted the Persian ironwood at the end of that long walk, that vista, and created the low arts and crafts wall. So she was a painter. She was a wonderful flower painter and painted the garden, the wall garden. And she had great taste, and she put whatever she planted has lasted. That wonderful Persian ironwood is just the ideal focus for that sundial she made. We can go on to the next one. That was just yesterday morning. We've had 3 days of frosts and it was beautiful, very clear skies. We can go on. But we can skip on the formality. My parents added the yews to give a bit of some more structural bones. That's one of Rachel Wyndham Quinn's plantings in the 1890s, which is a Monterey pine from California, from the coast, where I've seen them, and they're actually wind beaten and not so amazing as the ones here. And that's they stand up to the westerly wind. I'm loving the bulbs at the moment. We have lots of snake's head fritillaries and fantastic dog's tooth violets, and you can see in the background the leaves of the Japanese maples beginning to come out. We can go on. Oh, there's a dog in the dog's tooth violets. And the snake's head fritillaries, they come out quite early here, and they're spreading like mad. So it's very gratifying, good value. Plant a few and you get suddenly a couple of years later, you notice they've colonized a huge long patch of ground, which is fantastic. I just love the white ones, and here we've got the giant snowdrop leucojums, which are also great value and just spread like mad. They're all out here. I plant the white giant snowdrops with the white camellias and the cherries, so it's a lovely kind of palette of lots of whites together. We can go on. We've just been having a great magnolia few weeks. My favorites are planted drifts of, this one's called Leonard Messel, which is actually Ali's relations in England at Nyman's. Leonard Messel selected this one. It's called Magnolia Leubneri. Here is a Soulangiana, and I don't know which one, but it's fantastic against the blue sky high up. It's these magnolias are so wonderful because they don't have leaves. They come out without leaves, so that's what makes them so special and dramatic. We can go on to the next one, please, Gio. That's Cobus on the right, Magnolia Cobus, a Japanese species and a real good doer. Should be planted more. This one coming up is gorgeous, but I don't know what it is, and it could be one called Susan, but it's got this fantastic dark purple at the base and then lighter as it goes up, petals, and wonderful against the blue sky we've been having. We can go down. I plant lots of cherries because they're so We skipped the cherry. Oh, no, hang on. This is, oh yes, I love this. This is Berberis valdiviana, and Marianne was talking about Mount Usher. That was definitely one of the key gardens that inspired me to become a gardener and a designer, because I just fell in love with the wild, sort of cultivated wilderness aspect. And I saw this Berberis there, and I always hated Berberis, but then I saw this one, and this just, it has like wonderful long grape-like sort of hanging racemes, and they come out early, and the glossy evergreen leaves. So that's a fantastic shrub. And of course, hard to get these things, but Hans and Jan Ravensburg, you can get these wonderful things from them. We can go on to the next one and skip down quickly. That's just the lovely Prunus avium plana, the double cherry. The double wild cherry is a fantastic duo, especially for windy parts of the garden. So I'm planting drifts of that, and then we can go on to the next one. And I planted an avenue also from Jan Ravensburg, an avenue of birch, and it's his selection. In fact, it's an Irish selection of Albo sinensis. It's called Betular Fascination. I really recommend it to people. It grows really fast. I think the next one shows the avenue, Gio, if we go on to the next one. Oh, maybe not. Anyway, this is the little Japanese garden. It's a Japanese tombstone, and I'm not sure where my father got it, but I planted some rhododendron yakushimanums, which are small and Japanese, and the camellias, and that's a Philadelphus golden one to brighten things up. That's a nice little corner. I'm always trying to create these little dramatic vistas to look down to interest people. This is one of Rachel Wyndham Quinn's plantings, and it's not quite a champion, but it's up there. Hugely tall Drimys winteri from Chile, called winter's bark. Sailors used to chew the leaves to stop scurvy. I think we're coming to the end, but we've got a few more. Oh, that's just looking up at the Drimys with the camellias, and we have these wonderful groves of myrtles, which seed themselves with the cinnamon-coloured bark, which are everywhere, and I'm very happy that they are a weed, but they're absolutely gorgeous. That's just showing the bones again, and that shows the Persian ironwood in the autumn, and at the end of the vista where it starts to colour up, and that's just a few overviewed. And then this is more summer. This was just put in just to show in the summer. We also have the wall garden with herbaceous borders. If we go on to the next one, Gio. So a bit more of the more contemporary sort of perennial style planting with telechias, and I love this grass called pheasant grass, and it goes kind of into a pink haze and it looks wonderful with sedums in August and September. So we have interest all year round, from spring with all the magnolias and cherries and so on, Drimys, and the bothriums, the flame trees, and then in the summer and the autumn there's lots. In summer there's lots going on in the borders in the wall gardens, and then also with turning foliage and leaves in the main garden in the autumn. And here again, more details of the wonderful wall garden that my mother Alda restored with my dad, and it was all completely gone since the war, and she found the paths and divided it up with espaliered apple trees, put back these fantastic borders. They built these lovely little Gothic temples out of tree trunks and rustic twig work, and it's absolutely lovely to relax in there. Guests love hanging out there, and the greenhouse you can see on the top one, which is wonderful with lemon verbena and to pick. We encourage guests to pick whatever they want, lovely leaves, and take them down having their drinks and things like that. I'll speed up now because I'm sure you want to get on to the next one. Oh, I'm excited about this. Oh, that gate, which had if we go back one, Gio, it had all worn away to nothing. It was barely there, and we gave it to a wrought iron maker, and it's taken. We forgot about it for 6 years, and it's just come back, and it's beautiful. I'm so proud of it. And then just to finish up, I've had the mini digger in, my favorite thing in the world, because you get so much gardening done. I've been moving everything around this week. This is Sinead and Mike, who are in a couple of days a week. And finally, the last one might be me on the mini digger. So thank you all very much.
Thanks a million, Catherine. And just to remind people that we would have met Catherine before on our webinars, because Glin Castle is also an exclusive use property, and it is a truly magnificent property, very central to a lot of other things. So you can base yourself there for a week, 10 days, 2 weeks. So bear that in mind as well for clients, especially a family get together. So thanks a million, Catherine.
Thank you.
Going to leave Glin and we're going over to Kilruddery. But is Fionnuala there, Lady Ardee?
I think we were having some difficulties. I haven't seen Fionnuala yet.
Okay.
Giovanna, I sent you a WhatsApp there, so if you can make her, it's under a different name, but if you can make her co-host.
What's the name, Rachel?
It's Evelyn Brabazon.
Perfect.
Yeah, I saw her coming in earlier. Evelyn.
Okay.
Perfect. There she is. Hi,
Hello.
Fionnuala, how are you?
Hello, how you doing? Good evening to you all. How's it going? Can you hear me?
We can hear you perfectly.
Hi, Siobhan, how are you doing? Hello to all your guests.
Fionnuala, I have a short video that I took from a drone footage of your garden. Would you like me to show that first?
Beautiful. Yeah, yes, please. So hello, that's our, I think you can hear me, that's our garden. The garden's a 17th century gardens, Baroque gardens, that is about 50 acres of parklands, and with various different styles through the whole gardens. Our house is important as it's a sort of Elizabethan revival, and it's been in our family for 400 years. Here's my daughter who's just joined us. Hello, Evelyn. That's who Evelyn Brabazon is on my phone today. And so I thought maybe I would take you for a little walk through the gardens quickly, and I'll try and, I'm an in-law to this family. I feel like I'm a newbie. I've known it for about 16 years. So this garden has a long and varied heritage. And it's tour guides that usually take people to talk through the details of the garden. But Evelyn and I will try and show you around a garden that we love morning and evening as a family garden. And during the day from April to October as a garden for the visitors. Evelyn's just given me a little dandelion. And so we do take, what can I tell you about the gardens? Daisy. Thank you, Evelyn. We even have a daisy. Our garden is gardened with a head gardener and four other gardeners in the formal section, which we have a mixture of very well groomed and some very wild areas. We have these beautiful rhododendrons at this time of year across the long ponds. The long ponds are two stretching ponds after Versailles and through the main part of the front of the garden. And then there is behind me the wilderness. And we move on to the Sylvan Theatre just across the road. Their type of forget-me-not. And then we have the house and the orangery, Victorian orangery, built in 1850 after the Crystal Palace. We have, in recent years, we've opened the garden more to the public and started to restore the kitchen garden. So I'm going to walk, if I get time, down through the wilderness with you today and into the kitchen garden, where we grow vegetables and cut flowers for our farm shop and our grain store cafe, and herbs for our kitchen. You would have seen in the drone footage the most recent garden that we've added ourselves, which is a sort of circular herb garden on the way, just a new entrance into the gardens. Thank you, Evelyn. We've got feathers. So is there any questions? Because as I walk you through, really, I can respond to anything you'd like to know. I haven't got a presentation for you.
There's no questions coming up as such. I was just telling them that the garden is south of Dublin City as well. But you're also, a lot of these properties that we're talking to today are also perfect for private visits. So even if your clients aren't, 100%, stuck on going on a garden tour, they can do one or two of these gardens and do private visit and do lunches, etc. So all of the owners that you're seeing here will be delighted to host clients either as a group or as individuals as well.
Yes, absolutely. And we love to take private groups, especially people who are particularly interested in the horticulture or the history of the house and gardens. And we do private tours through the house and luncheons in the dining room, or people can join us in the Grain Store Cafe when COVID times allow people back in cafes. So
Fionnuala, there is a question. How long would the tour normally take if people are going around your garden? Say if we were having lunch in a garden tour, just a garden tour by itself.
The garden, well, we tailor it, so it depends on what people are. We like a minimum of 40 minutes in the garden because people come for the tour for 40 minutes, but it's really hard to. People stay for half a day. It's the same as this here Birr Castle saying the same thing. There's just so much. There's so much in these areas that people stay longer. So I could say 40 minutes. We could do a quick introduction in 20 minutes. Yeah. We've whizzed people through the house in a half an hour, but 50 minutes is better.
That's brilliant. Fantastic.
I'm going to try and turn this around so that people get a moment in this. This is the wilderness, which is full of anemones and wild garlic at the moment. A wilderness in this 17th century garden was laid out as a grid of lime trees, but had left all the wilderness coming up around it and was in a rectangle where everything else outside that rectangle was fairly tamed. It's one of my favorite parts of the garden today. And there is a little red squirrel, I think.
Oh, wow.
Eating at the feeder. No, it's a grey squirrel. Eating at the feeder over there. And we're about to walk through the beech hedge pond into down near the walled garden. Fantastic. This is very much a slower presentation than some of the other presentations. And I won't say that I've ever learned all the names of all the plants, but what I have done is learned to live near them and work very hard to ensure that they survive and continue here, and that we in this garden we say we maintain, restore and develop a little bit, but not very much. So what we're looking to do is to sort of like archaeologists uncover the 17th century garden that was here, and that's just been really exciting. In recent years we've uncovered a rock garden, granite steps up the whole back of the rock, and done up a rock wood. When I say done up, uncovered the base of the trees that would have been exposed in the past and underplanted them with various plants. Our head gardener is very much a plantsman. So for example, that sort of project's heaven for him. He gets to bring in his plant, his contemporary plant knowledge, but most of the time we're restoring hedges that have got overgrown, working further and further back into the edges of the garden to expose the old garden plans.
That's fantastic. Thanks a million, Fionnuala. And the other thing to bear in mind for people is that this is south of Dublin City. So if people were coming for a weekend, if they weren't coming for a full, main holiday, the vacation to Ireland, that you could incorporate Kilruddery, even if you're just coming for a few days. So that's fantastic. Thanks a million, Fionnuala.
It's lovely to meet you. Thank you, Siobhan.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So
Bye-bye.
we're leaving Dublin now, and we're going back towards the Midlands as such. So actually we're not, we're going down to the border of Waterford and Cork. So we're going to Tourin House and we're meeting Kristin Jameson. It's interesting because I always have a problem with Americans pronouncing your name. They always want to say Jameson. I can't hear you at the moment. Oh, we're still not getting the, it looks as if you're not muted, but we can't hear anything. Should we go on to James and come back to you?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can hear you now. Yes, I can hear you now. Oh, it's gone again. Am I the only person, or is there, Gio, can you hear?
Very faint.
I think the sound is down. Maybe the sound needs to be turned up if that's possible.
No. No, we still can't hear. So this is Tourin House and Gardens that Marianne would have talked about, belong to the Jameson family. So we just wait to get that audio a little bit louder. I think you have a young gentleman who ran upstairs. I hope he's going to run back down again. Should we go on to James and come back to you?
Yes, do.
Oh, we heard you now. We heard you now. Yes. And you've gone again. Oh,
We'll go on to James, and I think we'll be back.
I think it's something to do with the mic, because when you move away, it seems to hear you, and then when you go closer, it goes again.
no. No. No, we can't hear anything. And I used to be good at the old lip reading, but I can't get it.
Will we go on to James and be back in a couple of minutes?
Yeah, I think that's the best thing to do. Hi, James.
Hi, can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Brilliant. Hi, everybody. I'm James Fennell. As you can see, we've got a beautiful blue sky here in sunny Kildare. I'm just going to give you a bit of a walk and talk around from the front of the house, through the house, to the back of the house, and just through the gardens down to the kitchen garden, which is what Marion mentioned, to our Green Barn restaurant.
James, can I just give them a sense of place that you're 50 minutes from Dublin Airport, so you'd be ideal to visit if people arrive in early before they change the hotel.
It's motorway door to door. We're about a mile from the motorway, the new motorway. So yeah, it's really easy access from the airport, which is great for us. We're in the land of the Quakers, as Marion mentioned. This house has been in our family since 1710. It was inherited through the female line twice. But it's built by Quakers. It's built to look like a two-story house, which is why I thought I'd walk you from the front through the house to the back. Quakers did not like to be ostentatious, so it looks like a two-story house, but in fact, there's 4 floors, including the basement. So the basement and 3 other floors. The whole area is a Quaker stronghold. The local village was where the well-known Shackleton family were based, and there was a well-known school that educated people like Edmund Burke, and lots of other interesting characters were all educated at this little tiny school. So it's quite an interesting area. On our land also, Daniel O'Connell, which some of you may know about, O'Connell Street in Dublin. Daniel O'Connell had his last monster meeting on Mulletmas Rath, which is part of the old original farm. But just to give you a quick look around the front parkland. So we have been reclaiming fields. We're standing in a sculpture park here, and we've been moving and planting a lot of daffodils. That's our restaurant in the background. which you'll see from the other side. At the moment, it's daffodil season here. And so we've got over 100 varieties of daffodils, which follow on from the amazing snowdrops and aconites that would normally be everywhere around here. This will be full of snowdrops and aconites. But we're just going to go up towards the house and look, the sun has come out, so it looks gorgeous. All the leaves are about to come out as well. Horse chestnuts are just popping out. So it's a beautiful time to be back in Ireland, should you be blessed to have a winter house in the sun somewhere. This is the time of year I'd arrived back in Ireland, maybe a week or two ago, having, of course, come back to see the snowdrops. So here we are closer to the house. You can see the top story up there is the 4th floor of the house. So we're just going to go through and I'm going to do a quick walk around to make it a little bit different from what else you've seen. In through the front door. I'm just going to switch the camera around. Going to walk through the house. And so you can see the it's a mid-sized, unusual house because it's full of all this really interesting plasterwork. If anybody has the book The Irish Country House, that was the front cover there. Through to the south side, we've just put in a natural pool, which has not been finished yet, but here, and then we're going to swivel around to the back of the house, which looks completely different. As you can see, I'll swivel us back around. Wow. So everything's just starting to come to life. Well, it's Ireland, so everything has come to life really since February, but the borders are just starting to pop up, which is great. So we're just coming down through the garden. You can see the borders are just popping up there. We've had bad frosts here. And so our magnolias, beautiful magnolias, have badly suffered, as you can see. But normally this would be majestical at this time of year. We're just going through. This is the rock garden that Marianne was talking about. And when my mother arrived here about 45 years ago, these were completely covered. These were the only gardens remaining. My great-grandmother, Isabel Shackleton, who was first cousin to Ernest Shackleton, was responsible for many of these gardens. But there was nothing left. This rock garden was completely covered in ivy, and there were hardly any plants showing themselves. Let me just get you back up again. Sorry, I just lost my picture there. Here we go. So we now have about sort of 12 acres of formal gardens, sculpture park, kitchen gardens. Just going to go back into here. Hidden gardens. They've all been created over the last number of years. It's going to give you a quick idea of what we have. We've got all these little tunnels that lead to different areas. We planted this yew walk, and to create a bit of formality. All these were paddocks and ruined, overgrown fields. A lot of the buildings had fallen down when I was a kid. We've restored pretty much everything, apart from the Victorian greenhouse, which we're going to be heading towards now, because I'm going to go up and stand on the roof and have an overview of the gardens from the highest point that we have. Here we're looking down towards our stable yard block. And now we're just going to go through here. It's my mum gardening here, Leslie Fennell, who's also the artist that Alison was talking about. I'm going to go in through to the kitchen garden. The kitchen garden is a big part of what we do, because we have a restaurant called the Green Barn, and we supply all the produce for the Green Barn. The Green Barn is over here. This is our last building we have to restore. Originally, this estate would have been, it's a Victorian greenhouse. It was originally about 2,000 acres, but the Land Commission took a lot of it in the 1920s. When I was a kid, we used about a quarter of this kitchen garden. We now have reclaimed it all. We've repaired all the walls. We've repaired all the stable yards in the background. That yard there would have been for the travel movements of the family, coach houses and stables. And the main farm buildings would have been on another part of the farm. I'm just going to go up the steps and give you an overview of what we're looking at. So here we are. So we've restored all these gardens and created a lot of gardens over the last 25 years. And the last 6 years ago, we created this building here, which is called the Green Barn Restaurant, which is a farm to fork restaurant. All the produce comes from the land or the kitchen gardens or the polytunnels. And it's a big part of what we're doing is our food offering. And it's a wonderful.
James, we've just lost the sound there. Still showing muted.
Oh, that's weird. Can you hear me now? Perfect. Brilliant. So I've kind of, I don't know how much of that you heard, but this whole space was created in 2016, and it's kind of where one of the highlights of visiting Burtown is coming to eat here in the Green Barn Restaurant. We're very passionate about our food, our visual aesthetics. I'm an interiors photographer. I spent the last 26 years photographing interiors and traveling around the world, shooting books and things like that. But now I'm putting all my energy towards our family home and all of this that we're doing. That's kind of all I wanted to do, was going to have a walk through from the front to the back through the gardens and show you where we're at now. Happy to take any questions or for any of you guys to lead the conversation from here.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. If anyone has any questions, if you can put them in the chat box. But just Michael Kerrigan very kindly mentioned the exhibition that Lady Rosse also referred to, that James's mother has her paintings in it. It's the Walled Garden exhibition to open in Dublin at the City Assembly House on September the 23rd. So thanks a million for that, Michael, as well. So that's brilliant. Thanks, James. We appreciate it, and thank you for waiting so long and so patiently. So no now, problem. Hopefully, we're off to Tourin House. And we have Kristin, and we still can't hear. Nope.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Hello, Siobhan. I'm sorry, not very mechanical, I can tell you.
Well, last but not least, we're delighted that you're joining us.
Yeah, and Marianne too, and you're all very welcome to Tourin. I'm sitting in the main hall of the house at the moment, and I'm going to lift up my computer so that you can see the double stairs, I hope. Hold on a minute. Can you see it? There's a stairs.
We can.
It's yes, it's not a very good photograph, I'm afraid. But anyway, we're here in the hall where we welcome visitors with a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, or as Marianne says, a glass of Jameson whiskey or home brew. But that's not quite true, because Jameson is distilled now in nearby Middleton. My father was 7th generation direct descendant of John Jameson, and who started his distillery in Dublin in 1780. And he himself was a director and we've grown up with all the tastings and history and of the distillery. So we have a coffee here and a short tour of the house, and then go out into the garden. What was I going to say about the introduction? I was going to walk around the garden, but in fact, Andrea said she would do a short video, and I'm going to show you the video and sort of talk through. I live here with my two sisters, Andrea and Tara, and we all three paint and are inveterate art and enjoy our garden very much. Andrea is the the one who paints the most. And it's fun from the garden point of view, because when we're walking through the garden, we never know if we're going to find an artist in front of our easel or somebody sculpting or whatever. Now, just 1 minute. Can we go to the video?
Could we allow screen sharing, please?
Can we allow screen sharing?
Yes, you can. You can.
Yeah.
Co-host. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah. If you want to share now, just make sure to if there's sound in the video, you need to click.
Yes. Are we still?
You're sharing because it's just starting to share now. We can see it.
Yeah. Good.
And hopefully the sound will come on.
Yeah. Well, I'll be talking through.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Here you are. Here you are in front of the house with the Arboreum Alta Clarence on your right. And the house was built in 1780, and just around the corner, we will see the castle, Tourin Castle, a tower house built in 1560. Our family bought Tourin in 1780 and lived in the castle there until they built the main house in 1840. We are now at the side of the house and going to walk down the broad walk. The garden was designed at the time of when the house was built, and as you can see, they copied. There's a mini broad walk as was built in Kew at the same time. At the end of the broad walk is a pleasure garden with a collection of camellias and other shrubs, mostly planted by my Norwegian mother. As you see at the end of the broad walk is a stone seat. And on either side, you can't actually see the Arboreum Alta Clarence, which has been magnificent this year, and a whole collection of magnolias. Again, it's been such a good year, and 4 magnolias here. This is the beginning of the pleasure garden, and with 2, actually, you can't see the very tall eucalyptus here, and in right at the end there is a little path which brings us into Andrea's rock garden, and here is our 2 of our setters, Buzz and that live with us. I train and breed setters, and that's my sort of hobby apart from gardening. We're now on the path down the pleasure garden, which leads onto the wall garden.
We're seeing them still. Yep, we can see.
You are. That's all right. One's leading on to the other. All right, is it? Yeah. Because we're back a little bit because this is the rock garden Andrea has resurrected. So it was absolutely covered in brambles and every kind of awful weed until a couple of years ago. And it really has become a little haven where you can sit and have a few minutes peace. Now we'll go on to the next, please. Here's another view. Of course, some of the old cedar trees and oak trees date from the original garden. And most of the collection of eucalyptus and hoerias and special trees were planted by my Norwegian mother. So we have a Norwegian heritage as well. And she just loved planting these camellias and rhododendrons that her family couldn't grow in Norway. They were all great gardeners, but she sent them photographs and seeds of all the lovely things that she could grow here. We're now coming to the, and this is a very special member of the family, Sandy the terrier, and we'll be coming to the end of the pleasure garden, which leads on to a walled garden. And we still grow vegetables and fruit, and that we for the house and for the local market as well. We'll get to the walled garden eventually. Yeah, well, write down if you please. Yeah. Yeah, go right down.
Beautiful photos.
Yes, we've got slightly more. I'm afraid I was away all afternoon, so it's been a bit of and I thought I'd be able to walk through the garden, but I couldn't do that. This is the walled garden with Andrea's hens, and they're a source of great fun and, of course, lovely eggs. And we welcome.
I just got 5 chickens myself recently because
we welcome our visitors usually, and there's Rose digging in the garden, saying hello. We see. We're waiting now for the next one, and this is part of the tower house. Where a house was built on, and I'm afraid part of it was taken down, the front bit, to build this house, but it has the most wonderful view of the river and a stable yard just beside it. Of course, we missed the ponies and all the fun we had there as children, but Andrea has a studio there, and holds a lot of workshops. Here you are, here she is in her studio. And there's a lot of coming and going of artists, which is always great fun. Sandy, again, going through a gate in the doorway in the garden. The garden has sort of compartments, and what has been lovely during COVID is that we've had so much more time to do a lot of planting. And I know Andrea's taking this photograph because she also likes the detailed flowers, and her speciality of primroses and violets and really spring flowers. But this is our favorite time of year with all the spring flowers.
And the property being on the border between Waterford and Cork, it's ideal for
yes.
going from Dublin to Cork.
Yes. And I know we're just taking shots of flowers at the moment, but there are longer walks in the wood as well, and if people are interested in that, there's a short walk with our collections of rhododendrons, camellias, and magnolias, and of course wonderful daffodils at the moment. And I planted a lot of acers, so they're coming, like this one, this Acer grisium, the paperbark acer, which really in the autumn it's becoming such fun seeing. I know I heard Jans Ravensberg's names mentioned, and I too have got a lot of his trees, and really he's a terrific grower. This is my last shot. It was just taken where we started in front of the house of the daffodils. And thank you very much for listening, everybody. And you're all very welcome to Tourin, and look forward to seeing anybody who comes this way.
And Kristin, as well as that, you also host people for lunch when they visit, don't you? Like a lot of our clients, they usually stay for lunch as well.
Yes, yes, lunch or even tea, yeah. Or whatever anybody has time for.
But it's one of the properties that clients visit and we can never get them home. Like, you know, it all sort of delays everyone in the schedule because they're there longer than they intend because of you're all sort of very interesting with your stories, etc. So thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. So thank you. So, and we must do something with those images and put them all together maybe and do a little presentation as well that we could use for clients going forward. That'd be great.
Absolutely, yeah.
So thank you everyone for joining us, to Marianne as well for giving us an insight into the hidden and private gardens of Ireland and the historic houses. As she mentioned, there's also lots of charming properties up in Northern Ireland, which we will do a webinar in the future. But remember, these as well are just some of the properties. And like these are all private people. So sometimes, you know, if clients come, if one property isn't available, there are others as well that have interesting people. Like this is, when you go on a garden tour, it's not just the gardens, it's the interesting owners, the gardeners, and the histories of the houses that you hear about as well when you travel. So if there's any questions, I think everything was covered. We've done an hour and 40 minutes, but I think everything was covered at this stage. But if you do have any questions, or if you, as I said before, if you haven't registered, make sure you send an email to rachel@adamsandbutler.com, and we will be sending on the recording as well to everyone who registered. So I know we had almost 400 people who registered, so we'll be sending out the recording to everyone. So I don't see any questions coming up. So Marianne, you're still there, I take it?
I am, just about.
Brilliant. So that was fantastic, everyone. Thank you very much. And thank you to all the people from all over the world who joined us, like, you know, between North America, you know, South America, Lebanon, Europe, and everything. We really do appreciate it.
And just come. That's the main thing. Come and enjoy these absolutely glorious moments and experiences.
Yeah, it is. It's a fantastic time to visit as well. By the way, that's one thing that people always ask. When do you think is the best time to come for a garden tour?
I think personally May and June are stunning times. Yeah. April, May, June. And then I think September, October are lovely.
That's brilliant, because that's what I always say as well. And then throughout the summer, there's always some gardens in.
There is, and you've got roses, wonderful roses, yeah.
Fantastic. And again, thank you everyone for joining us. I'm just trying to write down those email addresses of people. So again, if we don't send you a recording, do send that email to rachel@adamsandbutler.com.
Sorry, I took screenshots of them.
Fantastic. So just one last thing to say is that next week we'll be covering genealogy, both in the UK, in Scotland mainly, and in Northern Ireland and all over Ireland. So we will be coming back next week with genealogy. So thanks a million, and see you again next week. And thanks you
very, very much.
Take care. Bye.